Okay, hi. Hopefully you're watching this because you want to do some final exam review before Friday's part one of the final exam. This will be continued to help you review for part two and part three, which will be given on the final exam today or next week. So first one, the first part of the final exam is a rhetorical analysis chart, just like you've been doing. You've done two of these and we talked about it at the beginning of the year. So the first thing you're going to see on top of the page, which has the rhetorical analysis reading that you have to do, is identifying the overall purpose for the reading. Remember, the overall purpose includes a SOAP statement only, and this is the only part of the paper that includes a SOAP statement. I've included right here a reminder for you of the template for the SOAP statement. Remember that it is in his or her, and then this is the date. This is the type of rhetoric that it is. This is the author's name. So in his or her, for example, if we did it for Abigail Adams, in her 1782 letter, Abigail Adams, letter to her son, Abigail Adams employs three rhetorical strategies, doom, doom, and doom, two, and then we have the overall purpose, persuade, inform, demonstrate, or entertain her audience of her son, that to persuade her audience of her son that he should make the most of his journey abroad to France in order to convince him to become a better leader in the future. So again, soapstone statement. It should include author, occasion, audience, overall purpose, and it should give us a little hint of the tone of what's going to be said in the paper. So those rhetorical analysis strategies. Soapstone statement. A good soapstone statement will get you a mastery, no problem. Okay, the next thing that you have to do is I have divided what you're going to get into sections, and you have to determine what the shifts are. So going back to reviewing recognizing shifts, that's the purpose of this slide. Some of you have been writing a little too much. Some of you need to write a little bit more. But in the first box right here, shift from 1 to 2, shift from 2 to 3. So here's where you should write the type of shift it is. So shift from 1 to 2, is it a mode shift, expository, descriptive, persuasive, or narrative? Is it a time or tense shift? Is it a topic or focus shift? Or is it a tone shift? Mode, time, topic, or tone. Mode, time, topic, focus, or tone. Now, inside the mode shifts, you can get even more in detail, and you can say that he shifts from expository tone, expository mode. Expository, again, is where you are explaining or informing someone of something. Descriptive is where you are describing in detail one thing. Like, for example, if I described how my room was laid out, saying, when you first walk in the door and you look to the left, you'll see the whiteboard and all of the desks arranged around the classroom. Just because someone used descriptive language somewhere in the paragraph does not make it descriptive mode. They have to describe something completely in order to be in descriptive mode. Persuasive, where the author goes from informative to persuasive, maybe an active role of persuading someone to believe or to do something. And narrative mode is telling a story, either someone else's story or your own story. So an example of that would be from A Modest Proposal, where Jonathan Swift says, an American friend of mine I have known to have said this and this and this, right? And he tells a little story using anecdotal evidence, narrative mode, about what his friend in America has found. Otherwise, if it's just a momentary thing and not a large section, it's probably just using anecdotal evidence in persuasive mode, not narrative. Narrative has to tell a story. All right, and then we remember time is moving forward in time or changing tenses. If we go from, for example, in your major papers, a lot of you are doing shifts from in 1952, Eisenhower did this, and then you might say later in time in the United States history, John F. Kennedy, blah, blah, blah. So then we have that later in time is an indication that we're about to shift time or tense. Topic and focus, this is probably the most common type of shifts that we'll see in rhetorical analysis, as well as shifts of tone, going from maybe a stern tone or an understanding tone to a more stern tone, however you want to describe it. So in this box, what kind of shift is it? Shift from 1 to 2 is a mode shift, a time or tense shift, a topic or focus shift, or a tone shift. And in this box is the reason why you believe they have shifted in tone. So you see right down here, shift box, you just write the type, mode. In reason box, you say the writer shifts from expository mode to persuasive mode in order to convince his audience that blah. Okay? Recognizing shifts. Next one, you get the different sections. In this final exam, there are 3 different sections. So the first section, overall purpose of that section. This is the purpose of that section only. It is not a soapstone statement. The only place you do that is the overall purpose. This is just explaining what the author is doing in the section and what the purpose of the section is. So some examples of things that you can write there, and this would be perfect just as it is. You don't have to write loads and loads. So you could say the author is introducing his problem in this section. She provides evidence to support her ideas in this section. He describes a specific moment in time to allow the audience to feel connected to him in this section. She explains her reasoning behind her decisions in this section. He tells a story to help convince the audience of his reputation or feeling or his ideas. So this is all you need to have in that purpose box. What is he doing in that section? How does it advance his argument? So this is an introduction to the problem. Maybe here is a spot where he provides counter arguments to his problem and answers back to those arguments. The only thing that I don't want you to do not summarize. A summary will get you no points. So this is not a summary. He introduces his problem. I'm not saying what he's saying in that paragraph at all. I'm telling you what he's doing. It's an introduction to the problem. So this is very simple, and some of you are complicating it a little bit. So don't summarize, explain what's happening. And then last, the rhetorical strategy section, 1 to 2 most important strategies. You'll see right here for mastery the most significant strategies in the section. So even if you include a strategy that is there, if it's not the most significant strategy, if it's not the biggest strategy that helps achieve the purpose of that section, then it's not going to gain you that very many points. So this is all you need to do there. Provide the word or phrase that indicates what the strategy is. Then include the quote, but include ellipses. You don't have to write the full quote out. I'd say like the first 3 or 4 words, an ellipsis in the last 3 or 4 words, including the line number. And then you explain the effect that the quote has on the audience, or that the strategy has on the audience. So here, the author appeals to logos through providing historical evidence. When Our Father's Debt to Freedom, line 8, Johnson includes historical evidence in order to prove to his audience that in the United States we have a long history of inequality. He wants the audience to be aware of what to look for in the future by studying history. This is specific. It's not the author uses connotative diction in order to appeal to the audience's feelings. That is so vague, and it could be used for any piece of writing. So you need to be specific about the piece of writing that it's in and what that rhetorical strategy is doing. In order to prove to his audience that in the United States we have a long history of inequality, that could only be said for this piece of writing. Okay. And then lastly, these are some of the strategies that we've discussed. I suggest you review all strategies, but these are the ones that we've discussed this semester and therefore should stand out to you. All of these strategies, juxtaposition, connotative diction, are all things that we've kind of gone over in class. So you should know the names of these. However, describe what you can't remember on the AP exam and on your final exam. If you don't remember the name of it, describe what the writer is doing. If you can't remember connotative diction, you could say the author is using important word choice or is using words that have an emotional connection to the audience in order to convince them to do what. If there's anything on this list that you don't know, then make sure you ask me in class on Thursday when we're doing a review for Friday's class. You will not get any additional time on Friday to complete this. It's only the time that you have in class. So making sure that you're ready to go is a good idea. All right. Thank you very much, and I will see you in class soon.